Hi everyone, welcome to Passion Talk, an initiative by Times Passion Trails. It is an exclusively curated series of masterclasses where experts talk about their art, the inspiration, the stories, and their passion behind it. Our experts have specially crafted the subject for their masterclasses, sharing unique pearls of wisdom only they bring to the world. Get ready to be inspired. Our talk today is about an iconic monument, the Red Fort in Delhi, and the inspirational work being done by our guests to make it more accessible, educational, and yes, an enjoyable experience. We are talking about Red Fort, the Fort of India, and taking us on a tour of this fort are Professor Kapil Kumar, former Director, Center of Freedom Struggle and Diaspora Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, and Siddharth Batla, founder, Member Design Village. Welcome to Passion Talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amin. And I am really thankful to Times Passion for this, giving this opportunity to talk to such a larger audience about such an important thing about the Red Fort, that how the Red Fort became a national symbol, why the Prime Minister every year, 15th August, hoists the Indian flag over there, its importance. And I think it's a good time to interact, though the handicap is there that we are in the houses, this corona thing. But I think Times is still fighting like a corona warrior, through this thing, that you are making the people aware of certain things, sitting at their homes, they are doing these things. So I'm really thankful to you.
Thank you, Professor Kumar, for such kind words. And we start with you, Professor Kumar. As you said, Red Fort, the Fort of India. So what makes it the Fort of India? Why is it the Fort of India? Take us through that journey.
You see, Red Fort has been talked a lot in history since the time Shah Jahan built it, And it has seen very ups and downs, It has seen the splendor of the Mughal, culture. It has seen shairi. It has seen poetry. It has seen Dara Shikoh's times. And at the same time, it has seen invasions, whether it was by Nadir Shah, whether it was by Ahmad Shah Abdali and all. But it started gaining significance, at a national point, I will say, particularly during the period of 1857. At a time when the rule of the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar was confined to a few lanes in Delhi, And at that time, the whole country stood behind him, declared him as the Badshah of India, and fought under him the fight for freedom against the British, Whether it was soldiers, whether it was peasants, whether it was small zamindars, whether it was artisans, they all stood together under his leadership, And that is why every call in 1857 was Delhi Chalo. Everyone wanted to move to Delhi, wherever one had its forces and fighting the British. But everyone wanted to come to Delhi and come to Red Fort. Even the soldiers from Meerut, on 10th of May, what they started was from Meerut was for Delhi, for the Red Fort. So that is the importance which Red Fort gained as a national symbol at that time. And this national importance of Red Fort increased that after the British were able to, take over again, and our forces were defeated for various reasons. The first trial in India of a ruler for sedition against the British was carried out in Red Fort. So that makes it so important, that the first trial of sedition against the British Emperor was done in Red Fort. And he was tried, he was sent to, Burma, Rangoon. Many of his other princes were hanged. Many, unlike that, Many hanged there in the Red Fort itself on the trees, the kind of things. And the same Red Fort now had become a chopal of a drawing room of the Britishers, And then after this, the British occupied the Red Fort. They understood its importance and converted even the structures in Red Fort. They started bringing, the army in, they built up the barracks in, destroyed the ambience of Red Fort, what it used to be, destroyed that life of Red Fort over there, which it used to be. There were no more now poetry. There was no more Ghalib there to, give his poetry. There was no more the emperor. There were no more, discussions and all. But it only became a British kind of a power symbol rule over India. Then comes a very major importance of Red Fort.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Okay.
during the freedom struggle here, and particularly after the Azad Hind Fauj was formed.
Okay.
Because Netaji's slogan was Dilli Chalo. And he
All
says
right.
that unless we are able to put the tricolor, replace
Yes.
this Union Jack from there, our mission is not completed. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
his entire speeches, his entire motivation to remove the Union Jack from Red Fort and hoist the tricolor over there. That was Netaji's call, at that time.
Okay.
So everything was Dilli Chalo.
Okay.
Even the songs came,
Mm-hmm.
Hum Dilli Dilli jayenge, Hum Dilli Dilli
Yes.
jayenge. Along with songs like Kadam Kadam Badhaye Ja, so many Raturi had composed so many songs for the Azad Hind forces,
Yes.
And the beauty was that these were sung at a time, if you recall, that the time in India from 1942 to 47 was a time when there was communal disharmony, there was demand of Pakistan, there were riots going on and all. And this is a time when the INA, under Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose,
Yes.
with General Kiani, General Himayur Rahman, Dhillo, Prem Singh, Gulzara Singh, so many from Tamil Nadu, every part of the country, they were together fighting one. And this symbolized again the fight which was there in 1857. So that is why this whole inspiration for Red Fort to go there. And then what becomes important is, this is a very crucial point, why the INA trials were held in Red Fort.
Yes.
Why were the prisoners kept in Red Fort? Because again, the British wanted to, like 1857, then Bahadur Shah is tried, sedition trial is done in Red Fort. So again, what the British do is that in 1945, it starts from November 1945, the trials over there, they put the prisoners over there, they put them in Salimgarh, they put it out near the Bawali in the cages, and the trial starts in the barracks of 1857. And mind it here, again, one thing is very crucial, like 1857, Red Fort's importance. In 1857, the British were shocked at the unity of Indians, that how Hindus, Muslims, all together fought the British.
Okay, yes.
Same in 47, when there was so much communal disharmony, the Pakistan demand was there, everything was going on. The British again wanted to test the unity of India. And what they did, they picked up three main ones. Shah Nawaz, a Muslim, Dhillo, a Sikh, and Sehgal, a Hindu. And all the three were tried there. And then the call came from all of country, कि लाल किले से आई आवाज, Sehgal, Dhillo, Shah Nawaz. That was the slogan in India. Lal Kile se aayi awaaz, Sehgal, Dhillo, Shah Nawaz. That was the slogan. And there was another slogan also came, which in fact was discouraged by many then. It was Azad Hind Fauj ko chhod do, Lal Kile ko tod do. And the Lal Kila tod do meant that what the trial was going over there. It was British barracks, of the Red Fort. Unko tod do, Azad Hind Fauj ko chhod do. That is what Red Fort symbolized at a national level, that it became a national emblem. And that is why on 16th of August, you see many people confuse this with 15th of August. The Indian tricolor was hoisted in Red Fort on 16th of August by the first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal. And that is why every year now on 15th of August, our Prime Minister not only hoists the Indian flag over there, but also addresses the nation from there. Everyone sees, what goes on on 15th of August over there. And don't forget another aspect in that, that even the terrorists, they attacked Red Fort. Why did they attack the Red Fort? Because Red Fort again symbolizes India and Indian nationalism. So that's the importance of Red Fort. And recently Red Fort was given another major boost up here. When on 21st of October 2018, the Prime Minister hoisted the tricolor again, not outside on that main rampart of the Red Fort, but inside, outside that barrack where the INA trials were held. To celebrate Azad Hind Sarkar's formation, to celebrate Azad Hind Sarkar's declaration. And then these museums have come. That's a little history how these museums got done, because during the first NDA period, when Mr. Jagmohan was the minister, he asked that the army should vacate the Red Fort. And he had a very interesting logic that the British had kept the army to dominate. British had kept the army there to dominate and demonstrate to the people of Delhi. Now we are independent.
Yes.
So why do we need the army in Red Fort now? Why should not Red Fort be open all to everyone, because only, few sections were open and all.
Absolutely. It's very interesting and rightly pointed out as to one, why was the Red Fort the place from where our Honorable Prime Minister addresses the country? And second, very important thing, take us through the journey from 47 till now. What's happening inside Red Fort?
See, from 47 till now, it was few sections of the fort were open. Like Diwane-Aam, Diwane-Khas, Naubat Khana, the market, people can walk through them.
Open for public.
Open for public. So you can visit them, you can go up to the back side of it, see the Yamuna from there, the ring road and all those things and all. But certain other sections of the Red Fort, like these barracks which were occupied by the army, they were not open to the public. There was also a problem about restoration of Red Fort in a proper way. And still, there were huge visitors to the Red Fort, As I said, its importance of both the earlier history, medieval period, and then the modern history and all. So everyone used to go to Red Fort. Even on Saturdays, Sundays, you will find, all people moving in there and all. So now a decision was taken a few years back that when these barracks had been vacated, these barracks had been lying vacant over there, what to do with these barracks and all. And there was a consistent demand by people, like Major General Bakshi, Anuj Dar, myself, even Chandra Bose and all. We were demanding that there should be a complete museum in Fort of INA because the INA trials were held over. So the government took a decision that this barracks should be converted into a museum. And it is not just one museum, but now there are 5 museums which have come up over there and 2 more are coming. And the first museum starts with the museum of 1857. The second one comes to Jallianwala Bagh and India's participation in the First World War, because it's important because in the First World War also all operations, many things were done by the army from the Red Fort. So it is both First War's impact on India and Jallianwala Bagh. Then we come to INA and Netaji. And then we come to another, which is Azadi Ke Diwane, which is the freedom fighters of India, revolutionary. When the Prime Minister inaugurated it on 23rd January last year. That was Netaji's birthday, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birthday. And the Prime Minister inaugurated these museums that day and gave it to the nation. And that day, he said that this complex within the Red Fort, which has been made into the museums now, this barracks area and all, it should be named as Kranti Mandir Parisar, a complex, a temple of revolution. Because all the revolutionaries, from 1857 right up to 1957, they have been placed to. I got a phone call one day, 7:30 in the morning, and I'm slightly, taking very, uncomfortable taking calls in the morning. And there was someone speaking from Patna. He said, Professor Saab bol rahe hai? I said, yes. He said, aapka shukriya ada karne ko phone kiya. I said, what have I done, that you are saying thanks to me on the phone and that too early in the morning. And he said, aapne hamare walido ko Lal Kile mein bitha diya. So I said, what is this? His grandfathers were sent to Andaman by the British. And this gentleman, he said that everyone had forgotten about them. And now you have placed them, their photograph and their acts of braveries. It was from Khan Sahib, I'm forgetting the name actually, that you have put him there. And then he asked me a question. You have done this under this government only? I said, yes, I've done it under this government only. He said, but he was a Muslim. I said, so what? This is what I want to show the country, that how the Hindus and Muslims fought together for this country.
Professor Saab, what's been the time frame of these museums coming up? Since when did it start, and what's like when did you actually start coming up with these museums?
See, I got involved with these museums sometime in May 2018 when I
Okay.
was called, and when I was called to do the historical content of that museum. And will you believe, when I look back, I can't imagine I did that. That between May 1918
Yes.
and January 2019, it is hardly 8
Okay.
months' time, I did 4 museums.
I like to bring in Siddharth here. Siddharth, it's important that we get you in here. Just to introduce, Siddharth is IIT Kanpur, architect, designer by education, and his passion is interactive public spaces. Now, Siddharth, we've been listening to Professor Kumar. What a treasure trove of information he is, and he had so much historical knowledge that he wanted to put forth in a museum. Tell us that journey, like how did that go about, putting it all together at Red Fort?
Thanks for calling us here, and I think thank you for Times of India for such a great initiative. So I mean, I would like to thank first of all in the journey itself is the Cultural Ministry and the ASI Archaeological Survey of India of thinking that something like this can be done. So I've traveled around the world, I've seen a lot of museums, but I think Red Fort is the only historical monument in the world right now which are in-housing 7 museums, and there are 3 more coming. So these barracks were not used at all, and these barracks were like built 150 years ago, more than 150 years ago. And then how to convert them totally into museums and how to increase the footfall into a historical movement. At the same time, you are getting a place where you are already having 7,000 to 8,000 people coming. So if you treat them well and if you give them information, they will get to know about Red Fort, which can actually educate a generation to come. So I think that is where the idea came from, and then the ASI hired us as the designer and the executors for that, and that is when we thought that who can do the justice to this, and that is when we got connected to Professor Kamal Kumar to come on board and to give his inputs in terms of research and writing and storytelling. And but our work as designers and the people who are actually doing the execution there is a design call where we need to see that one is what is written in the books, one is what is what has been told by the storyteller, but there's a lot of thought which goes in that how you need to represent to the armed public here. The people who are coming in Jhund there, the people who are coming with the family there, they want to, in India, unfortunately, the museums are like the places where you don't want to go.
Yes.
So, people don't want to go to the museum. They want to go to Red Fort as entertainment, and then they need to go back to their homes. So I think the idea of the design was that how to make sure that it is first the entertainment, and then through entertainment you can give them the information. So if you try to make them old age museums in which they are museum, people will not come. The younger generation may not come. The people who are coming from a family in Chandni Chowk may not be visible, may not come to this place. So how to make it not a museum but an experiential.
Siddharth, which was a big challenge was that most of the photographs which we had on 1857, these were very old, the paintings or whatever photographs were there. Now, how to, enlarge them, how to put them over there as big things, when you see over there. That was a big challenge, and I think Siddharth's team did a wonderful job in that. It was a very costly affair also. It was a very time-consuming affair also, because they had to trace them, I think, something, then blow them up or something like, I don't know the technologies they use, But the impact it gives you. To the people, that the moment you walk in, for example, in 1857, the moment you walk in, on the right hand side we gave the flags. Rani Jhansi's flag is there. Bahadur Shah Zafar's flag is there. Lucknow Begum flag is there. Then the soldier's flag is there with a kamal and a routine there. and then you start moving. So these kind of depictions by
Very
the
nice.
team also of Siddharth, was not a joke. Putting them these panels, putting in films, even putting certain things on display, which were there. This was a major thing.
One is restoring the monument to its past glory and making it informative. So on one hand is you needed to convey the historical aspect of it, and on the other hand, make it like an experiential, entertaining visit for people. How did you work in ensuring this balance, that the right message, right historical knowledge goes out, and yet it remains an entertaining experience?
I mean, you see, it is a dialogue. For me, history is not a dead subject. Because what I look at history is that how we have evolved,
Okay.
how our present has evolved. And then by comparing the two, the analyzing the two, we plan for a better future. So it's not a dead subject, it's a living subject for me. Then I believe that history should not be confined to libraries or journals or books or seminar rooms. History belongs to people. So
Absolutely.
history has to go to people. And that is where certain suppressed realities of history also
Yes.
need to be brought. I'll give you one example from it, and how it makes it more conversation.
Okay.
In 1857, when the British had surrounded Delhi at the ridge, and there was a spy, British spy in Delhi, Gauri Shankar,
Yeah.
who was every day sending letters to the British on the ridge.
Okay.
So just 2 days before Eid, this month only coming, he wrote a letter that you attack Delhi in the afternoon of Eid. Because by that time, Qurbani would have taken place and riots would have erupted. Hindus and Muslims will be fighting each other.
Okay.
And it will be very easy for you to attack Delhi and win Delhi. So the British, based on his information, waited till 11 o'clock in the night that routing will take place and they will attack Delhi and no routing takes. And after 2 days he writes that, well, the Badshah had issued a farman that there will be no Qurbani, and because of that no routing took place. So it got it left. Now what letters we discovered, and we have put in this museum, is a letter by Badshah to the Kotwal of Delhi.
Okay.
And you will be surprised, you know what the Badshah is saying in that letter? To keep the Hindu-Muslim unity. He says, all the Muslims who have cows in Delhi, their cows should be kept in the Kotwali. So that no one even, flouts his rule.
Okay.
And the Kotwal writes back, I don't have so much space to keep them.
Okay.
And then the Badshah issues a farman that there will be no Qurbani, and then there is a Munadi over Delhi, and Hindus and Muslims are together. And Badshah is very clear that we don't have to fight about this. And this is the kind of history which happened in history, which our country needs today.
Professor Saab, all this information that you've told us also take us museum by museum as to how the new museums that have come up in Red Fort, which are those, and how are those, which areas are
this is what I'm telling you, that these are the panels in the museum. Say for 1857, I challenge in the museum interacting with the audience the very concept that some say that British had come to India only to trade, but Indians used to fight among themselves, so they established their empire. And I've started with that. Colonialism, before coming to India, had enslaved many other countries. That was their aim. They came and begged for trade, entered India to the trade purposes, and then, established the colony. And then whatever, we have given all the causes for the 1857, right from the doctrine of lapse to all the kind of post treaties, the disbandment of Indian armies, the ruining of Indian artisans, all that we have brought in. And then we have said about the planning. Because I'm very clear on that 1857 was a very, very planned, and the planning was going on for the last 4 or 5 years. Nana Sahab, Azimullah,
Okay.
Nawab of Banda, Rani Jhansi,
Mm-hmm.
some princes of Bahadur Shah,
Mm-hmm.
many talukdars of Awadh.
Yes.
They were all planning.
Yes.
And Nana Sahab had written letters
Mm-hmm.
even to the king of Jammu, even to the king of Travancore, to Sholapur,
Okay.
to places in Karnataka,
Mm-hmm.
to Hyderabad, to have this thing together. And mind it, there were 3 dates for the 1857. People generally take it that it was Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey actually,
Mhm.
in his heroic thing, shot the gun, that he did it early. But there were 3 dates for 1857. 10th
Mhm.
May, 30th May, and 10th June.
Okay.
And so well planned, First of all, look at the planners. Environmentally putting these dates for a war with the British. Because these are the heat months in India, the summer months in India.
Mm-hmm.
And the British will find great difficulty in finding
Yeah.
in these weather conditions.
Yes.
Such an important decision missed by our historians.
Okay.
Then 10th May was the date for
Yes.
Meerut, Delhi, Ambala, Haryana, some of these nearby places. And they knew that once this happens there, the British will rush their
Mhm.
forces from Lucknow and from Agra and from Madhya Pradesh and all towards Delhi. So the next date kept was 30th May. And that was kept for Awadh. That was kept for Madhya Pradesh.
Okay.
And then the third date kept was 10th of June, which was kept for Peshawar, which was kept for Assam, which was kept for Maharashtra,
Mm-hmm.
down these regions. And that's how it moved. And we have put up panels in the
Right.
museum, right from, Barakpur, starting from there, Bengal, coming to Meerut, coming to Delhi, covering whole of Haryana, then places in Rajasthan. We go to places in Punjab. The Anjanala incident we have put up, where more than 400 were butchered and put up in that well. That well has been found very recently. We have put up the well, tried to do that also. Peshawar. Hundreds and of hundreds hanged with trees, shot from the guns, and from the gun's mouth, tied with the guns and shot over there. We show that. Then we show Gujarat, Panchmahal areas.
Mhm.
Then we show Maharashtra, Sholapur and all. Then we saw Odisha, the Naik brothers in Odisha, Sambalpur, Bihar, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Ajijan Bai.
Mhm.
And the kind of role women have played in this, People only know Rani Jhansi and Begum Hazrat Mahal and all these big names, We have put in over there that how this dancing girl,
Yes.
she will move among the British soldiers, and the British soldiers will get drunk and all while dancing, and very quietly she will have that pudiya, a kind of paper pudiya made in her hand, and she will pass on the message to the soldiers over there when to revolt and how to fight the British over there, In Meerut, Bagpat, Shamli, Muzaffarnagar, you
This
see
is
these areas
incredible.
for
I like to bring in Siddharth here. Siddharth, so much information, such pearls of wisdom. How do you? Did it make your job easy? Did it make your job difficult to put it all together in the forms of museum, which are as informative and yet engaging?
Yeah, I think I don't know that it was easy or a tough job, but I think it made it more interesting. Once you know these stories, once you know that you need to do justice to these all things. So I think our job was that how different people who are coming to the Red Fort will get this information. And if you see the museums right now, they are very experiential first, so they are very technology based. You have a lot of projectors, you have a lot of touch screens, the technology of today's time, which interests people, and everything was designed in a layered format. Like for example, if a person have 10 minutes, he can actually see the museum in 10 minutes. If a person has 30 minutes, a person can see in 30 minutes. And if a person has 1 hour and he want to, 2 hours, he want to go in detail, he can do that. So for example, what we did was that every room was given a film of 2 minutes. So, if a person don't have time, he just look at that film and then move ahead.
So, Professor Saab, now when we visit Red Fort, we get to actually see the entire history from 1857 till this date, which actually makes Red Fort the Fort of India. And you relive the entire freedom struggle till this date.
Now, how many people know that 50% of the women in Rani Jhansi regiment were Tamil Kuli women from Malaya? The Kuli women there. The Gawalas.
Okay.
The Gawalas in Thailand. the Gawalas from Gorakhpur. They come there to Netaji with their cows and their buffaloes. And they say, we don't have anything else with us. We give this to Azad Hind Fauj, and we will move with the Azad Hind Fauj milking the cows and buffaloes for the soldiers. And mind it, these people had never seen India. Their few earlier generations had moved to these places and indentured labor or as coolies and all. And all they have heard was stories about India from their Aja and Aji and parents and all. And that was the call of nationalism.
But I think they need to also see that, how beautifully the museums were designed with the current government, that these need to be futuristic museums like the museums across the world. So I was telling you that what we did was we made these small documentaries, and we thought that who need to narrate these documentaries? That person need to be of today's time. That person need to relate to the young audience we have. So we got Abhishek Bachchan as the narrator of all the videos. So if you go right now, you will see all the documentaries have been narrated by Mr. Abhishek Bachchan. So we got this young youth guy who can relate to the younger audience, and beautifully he was not having a tonality of a museum serious orator. His tonality was very young. His tonality is like he is talking to you as a young person in the museum, and that is how all the documentaries were made. There are lot many videos. There are lot many photographs which have been edited, which have been glorified to the panels. Then there are little things like there's a great scape, as we call it, which is not the scape itself, which is actually Subhash Chandra Bose's journey from India, then to Russia, and then to Germany itself. So nobody has ever documented it. And it has not been documented in terms of a film or a video or a notebook, So we documented the whole map, and you see right now these barracks are at a height of 5 meters. You will see a 5 meters by 6 meters. That's a 2-story building map of showing that how he went from Calcutta that day at night, leaving the Britishers aside when they were actually taking care of him, seeing that he cannot escape anywhere. So he took his journey, and then how in so many days he went with 3 different, totally different individuals he became, and how he crossed these borders of Afghanistan to Russia to Germany. It's a beautiful story. A museum is all about interaction and how this interactivity will increase in design. So you need to make sure that who is your user, and then how you gonna be telling this story. So these small documentaries which are orated by Abhishek Bachchan, and these bigger panels which actually declutter a lot of theory and text into visuals which people can see in 2 minutes and can understand it. It is all what interactive museums are all about, and that is what you see in Red Fort right now. That is one part of it. The second part which is very important, is that how to conserve these buildings, which is again an incredible initiative by the government. When we were conserving a barrack, which is still to be open as information center, so the government also got Dalmia Bharat as a monument mitra to take care of the facilities there, and that is how one center as information center was initiated. And once we were doing the conservation of it, we wanted to restore all the old stone and all the bricks into original form, and that is how we cleared a lot of layers. And these barracks were made of lime. There was no cement at that time. So we discovered methods that how these barracks were made, and to redo it, we actually used the same techniques of lime. We actually graded that which flavor of lime and surki need to come along. We actually use all the old techniques to actually restore it. And once we are restoring it, we actually found stones which were there of the Red Fort. 60% of the Red Fort was destroyed after 1857 when these British barracks were made, and they used the same stone which was demolished, and they added with their old bricks and made these barracks. So you can actually, if you go to these barracks, you can see those old stones which were the broken part of the 60% of Red Fort structures been there. So you can see those stones there. It's so incredible. You can see the layers of history. You can see that how a Mughal garden was destroyed, and a part of the Mughal garden was converted into a British garden, and the barracks there. So you can see that the line where the Mughal garden it was ended, and then you see these barracks and the at the garden there. So I think it is the way that how the history got rediscovered through information center. So in the information center, which is still to open, you will see these layers of history, that what was Red Fort when it was built in 1600s, how Shah Jahan actually was building this and Taj Mahal at the same time. A lot of people don't know that the Taj Mahal and this was built by the same person at the same time, the same stone. So we actually, we wanted to use the same stone for redoing it. So we went to Rajasthan, to Dholpur, to get the same red sandstone which was used by Shah Jahan in 1600s, because he got the red sandstone from the same place. And then how to then build these barracks brick by brick, stone by stone, and then showing that how it got evolved, and then how Bahadur Shah Zafar came in, and then what happened when Britishers took over. So they are interactive holograms which shows that a part of the Red Fort used to look like. There are 270-degree show in which you are in a room and you will feel like that you are in that time of Red Fort, and you will be knowing that which all old structure which are gone, how they used to look like. And then what happened after the Britishers took over, before the Britishers took over, that this fort was ruled by Sikhs. This fort was ruled by Marathas. And there are great stories to that. So we are actually sketching those stories and painting on walls. That is what we are doing. And then how the Chandni Chowk was formed. I mean, Chandni Chowk was Shahjahanabad, the city of the fort, Red Fort. Red Fort was the fort, and Shahjahanabad was the city. So Chandni Chowk, if you see, was the chalk which was full of water. And why it is Chandni Chowk? Because at Chandni Raat, you can see the moonlight. So, and there was a water channel which used to go, which is also inside the Red Fort. There's a Nehre Bish, so there's a water channel which goes in all the monuments, all the structures inside Red Fort. How that would form. So the information center will tell you the whole story. With that, 3 barracks are now getting converted into National Museum. The National Museum is actually getting its beautiful antiques of prehistoric British time, of the Mughals time, of the Marathas time, of the Sikhs time, to get into these barracks. So suddenly you will see Red Fort with 3 national museums having actual physical things which will recreate the history in your mind, with the information center which will tell you the whole history of Red Fort since last 400 years and what is happening right now, as the seat of power, at the seat of Delhi, at the seat of Red Fort. And then the history of Subhash Chandra Bose to 1857 to we have Salimgarh, where actually these prisoners were kept. So you will see a sea change in a monument which was yes, of course, the Red Fort, to a place where you have these living museums and all the information in a futuristic way. And I don't think this has been done anywhere in the world. You have museum squares in Berlin and London, but those are museum squares with a lot of museums here and there, but not at a World Heritage Site. Yeah,
absolutely. At a World Heritage Site, of global standard. I mean, imagine museums, interactive center, visitor center, things like these at Red Fort, a place which you would usually associate with one visitor's year during the school time, or on 15th August, where you get to hear Honorable Prime Minister speak from there. But to go there and actually live history, this is actually remarkable stuff, Siddharth.
True. So, with this platform, I will also like people to go and visit Red Fort.
It truly is. I mean, this has been such a fantastic experience listening to Professor Kumar and you, Siddharth, because this is what Passion Talk is. This is what this initiative by Times Passion Trail and the Times of India is, because this is nothing less than work of passion. Professor Kumar's passion for history and your passion for creating interactive public spaces, and these two combine to bring to life a monument that is in itself history. I mean, that is whose entire presence is narration of our history.
I mean, I'd like to mention here how these two passions get mixed up and converge. That of a historian, that's what I tried to do, and of Siddharth and his team. I'll give you an example. There was a rare document which we found for the assassination orders for Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. given by the British MI5. That when he was when he was to travel from Kabul to Berlin,
All right.
the British MI5 secret agents in Cairo and in Istanbul were given instruction to make plans to assassinate Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, one of its kind in history. But these are very small documents. And when I placed them before Siddharth's team, that I need this highlighted, because this is something very new. And his team worked very hard to put it, enlarge it, to put it the best way. Same they did for Netaji's, what is called as a resignation letter.
Brilliant.
Huge, put on the wall over there, over there. And mind it is not resignation letter. He doesn't resign. He says, kindly strike off my name from the list of successful candidates from ICS. That's the importance of it. And that's not a great escape. That's not a great escape. I and Siddharth discussed. I told Siddharth, I said, this is not escape. He was not escaping from anything. He was going to wage another war. And you know what we decided that to put in the panel? Or police soti reh gayi. And he left the police sleeping. Or police soti reh gayi.
Okay.
He left the police sleeping. And that becomes the communication aspect, with the people.
Nice.
Putting. Similarly, there was a report in 1942 published in New York Times, a fake news that he, along with two other officers, had died in a plane crash in Japan in 1942. So we had to place that also.
Okay.
1942, I'm talking, this fake news was there. And Gandhiji had asked his family, sent his condolences at that time.
All right.
So we had to put that up. And then again his team enlarged it. And I tell you, the way this team worked, from these small photographs of Netaji to putting them into, 4 meters, 5 meters, huge things on the walls and all. This will be experienced by people who visit that over there, both for 1857 and for this
Truly.
museum.
True,
which they will experience and interactive. And I tell you, the biggest achievement I feel now for both Siddharth, myself, and plus I will say Archaeological Survey of India. Because the way the director, Usha Sharma ji, Director General there, the way she inspired, the way she monitored, and the way she gave suggestions and all. So Archaeological Survey, we must give credit to this. Generally people, criticize Archaeological Survey, but what Archaeological Survey did, and I tell you the change which has come in Red Fort, this whole debate which went on in India about heritage, in fact, I had done a paper long back in 2010 in Quebec in a UNESCO conference, where I said that it will take a long time in India for heritage to develop as an industry. And a collaboration between the private sector and the public sector for heritage. I never knew that it will come so soon, that within 7 years, this will start. And Red Fort now, with that kind of a collaboration with the Dalmia Group and all. And this is what you will find in Red Fort now. There's a new sound and light show which will be on air very soon now.
Absolutely.
So that is my success. And second is that there has been no politics in this and no political criticism. It's more than a year and 3 months now that the museums have been there, and everything which has been written or displayed in photographs or films and all, whatever is there, there has not a single critical thing come about the museum that this history was done wrong, or this film has been projected wrongly, or this photograph has been done wrongly. We have not heard that. And that shows the combined achievement of the Cultural Ministry, of the Archaeological Survey of India, of Siddharth's Delhi factory, the design factory, little bit effort which I put in. It's a combined success for that kind of a thing. And I must say, it is a success for the Indian people. And I thank you again.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you
for giving this up.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure speaking with you, Professor Kumar and Mr. Bartla, for taking us on this memorable trail reliving the past glory of the Red Fort and amazing initiatives to make it a present-day wonder. I seriously look forward to going there once things open up. I'll be among the first people to go there and experience all this. It is a work of passion, and by two of you, and this is what Passion Talk is all about. Our Passion Talk continues with many such amazing and immersive discussions. Thank you so much for watching. Join again. Thank you.